Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott back again for another episode of the Nolecast. Looks like we've been back again for 10 seconds there. Didn't realize it, but
I don't think
no.
so.
Okay,
Have
good
we?
deal.
Okay.
I don't know. The
Rare
clock
form.
is confusing me, but stay up till 2 a.m., drive home. Maybe you lose 6 seconds or so on the starting. Nonetheless, pretty fun evening last night, Bud. Pretty remarkable performance. We did the instant reaction from the parking lot there, and had a chance to go back, and I was able to get a quick look upon getting in, and have a second look and third look at the second half. So excited to break down what was just a statement that's hard to almost articulate. How much of a thorough, I don't want to say beat down, but you just physically bullied LSU in the second half. And I think a lot of us were confident about the game. You and I both started to hear from people who know ball at a high level, not just, not being derogatory towards fans, but I mean, people who's get paid very well to evaluate this sport, that I know what Florida State is, I know what LSU is, and the matchups just aren't there. So we thought Florida State had a real good chance here, and we thought Florida State could cause problems with their secondary. I'm not sure I saw the physical level of play and the beating of blocks and shedding blockers on the perimeter, and some of the things that stick out to me when I go back and look at it, that is just different. And hey, look, there's a ton to talk about from last night. I don't want to take us down one individual path, but just an incredible performance. Great to see you. Great to be able to spend time with you and so many of our fantastic listeners. And what a game we have to talk about tonight.
Awesome time at the Matzo tailgate. You and your lovely wife and everybody, and it was really great to see people who were like, man, I've been listening to you guys since the talk shoe days, and my wife's like, yeah, I wasn't wrong. That was some real loser stuff that these two dudes were talking to each other on the phone and recording it, which is kind of what we did, because we didn't have microphones or money back in the day. Yeah, that was a really fun night to go and enjoy, and that's probably about as cool of an atmosphere as you can get for a neutral site regular season game. I thought Noles fans really showed out, and it last year it felt at times in the Superdome not like a true home game, but like this is not an LSU home game. Flip it, a couple hundred miles away. This felt like a Florida State home game in Orlando. Like,
yeah,
FSU fans
Florida
showed
State
up a lot.
side was Florida State side for all intents and purposes, and then that lower level was pretty strongly LSU and out on the flanks, but the upper deck on the LSU side looked 80% Nole fans. I mean, I don't think saying it's 70-30 might be conservative in what it was last night. And this fan base is large and active, and 10.3 million people watching this game gives you an idea. Or 10.3, I think, was the peak. 9.1 was the average. Whatever the number, it was massive, largest game since 2016 for a Labor Day game, and quite the statement all around from the fan base, from the the broader electronics / TV, and then from the people on the field. Just we weren't lying to you when we went and watched practice, and we're as optimistic as we've ever been probably in the history of this podcast about what we saw and what we thought could be out there. Now, it's not just going to be 57-0 or whatever we're moving forward. And there's a lot that was not great, and there's some things that we can talk about and break down the game in a fuller manner. But just overall, from the tailgate to to the 2-hour wait to get an Uber, last night was an incredible experience, and quite the statement from the fan base in general.
So, go back 3 weeks ago. When was the Tampa Noles thing?
I believe that was about 3 weeks ago. Yeah,
we had kind of debated if we were going to share this or not with the audience there, and I was like, you know what? Like, people paid for the VIP experience, right? Like, they're not recording it. We're not going to get well actually on this. I'm just going to share, what a friend of mine who's a defensive coach in college, but a big LSU fan. And he was like, you guys are going to effing kill FSU or LSU. I was like, what? Like, you think it's like, yeah. And I mean, he's a college coach, but he uses we for LSU. He's like, we do not match up well with the things that Florida State does well at all. I was like, you know what? Let's tell the Tampa Knowles that. And yeah, I think we can kind of call that a killing, right? I mean, it maybe took about 20 minutes longer than maybe you thought if everything went right, but your matchup edges were just massive, and you just exploited them over and over again. I shared some images tonight from the high up angle. You never had to play this card where you just drop back 50 times, but I honest to God think you could have and still dropped 30 or 40 on LSU if you didn't do a single run play. You were getting guys open every single time. Now, look, there's a lot to talk about. But to me, the one huge matchup edge you thought, you didn't know, but you kind of thought, given who LSU took in the portal and who was not on the field for them, right? Like, what are the odds that the number 3 and 4 corners they took in the portal are studs? Pretty low. As people who study the portal quite a bit. Like, you take a Denver Harris, he ain't on the field for you, right? You take Johnson from Ohio State, he's not on the field. What are the odds your 3rd and 4th corner you took can check Johnny and Keon? Turns out that night, 0%, right? Like, they were not, it's not like their guys didn't play hard, but they were outmatched physically by you. And Mike also just beat them on scheme. I'm sure some LSU fans will tell us some of it's self-inflicted, and given how they use Perkins, I don't completely disagree. But that's still a choice, right? And you made that choice to limit Jordan's legs, and Jordan just roasted them throwing the football. And honestly, like, his numbers were good. I thought his pocket presence and scrambling were good. His overall throwing the ball, like, literally has room for improvement. And the guy was, I should probably be a better podcaster here and have the numbers pulled up. I mean, he was 23 of 31 for 342, 4 tutties, and like 3 drops or 4 drops, like 3 drops, right? Yeah. Johnny 2, Bell 1. I mean, those are great numbers. And yet he absolutely could have thrown for 500 yards in this game. If you trust it just a little bit more, like, there's room for improvement on an offense that just dropped 45, and not very many cheap, points in that 45, man. I think that's why, I mean, you and I are sitting next to each other in stands. That's why, like, you never really panicked. The only thing that had me super nervous was like, all right, they are on pace for 600 yards. Yeah. So at some point, and they probably screwed up LSU by not scoring earlier. Like, they should have killed you when they had the chance and didn't, because you bowed up and out physicaled them along the line of scrimmage in the most compressed part of the field. But I was like, if you can get the defense, get like just a stop or two, LSU is not going to stop you very much. Like, you're getting guys wide open several times per drive. The first drive they score on, they have 2 drops, and Jordan has 2 bad misses, and they have a 15-yard OPI. And they're like, no problem. Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, anytime you have a goal line stand, and certainly, 2 similar stops like that it's going to skew the numbers and total yards and stuff like that. But no, I mean, from the first play on, there was a little bit of confusion in aspects of Florida State's defense, and that's gonna, that's gonna happen, man. Then they have really good coaches that are paid a lot of money who have, 8 months to prepare for
playoff games
and show you stuff that you've never seen before. I mean, so some of that's going to happen, but you're right. About 5 or 10 minutes in the second quarter, we started talking amongst ourselves, just saying, like, this is concerning. That they're, but at the same time, it's concerning, and they haven't capitalized on it. They didn't do maybe what they needed to there in that window, and even then, kind of to what we're talking about, maybe you just get a little bit more aggressive in the pass game, you lean on it a little bit more, and ultimately what happened is, ends up happening. But just a remarkable response from Florida State and to keep, chipping away at it. And then ultimately, once you kind of found traction there in the third quarter, there was just nothing there. And yeah, I mean, a couple freshmen who are in playing their first snap of college football um, act like freshmen who have never played college football before, and you give up a late touchdown. But that, honestly, in the long run, that's probably the best thing that could ever happen to you. Both that you got those guys snaps, you got something to aggressively coach them on moving forward, and they're going to get a hell of a lot more snaps with this team, and that's something that you can grow from. So one thing that would be impossible for you, and I guess us, I'll group myself with this, to grow from is to be better at prize picks than you were on our last podcast. But I think we got everyone that you suggested. You and I kind of worked collaboratively over this last year, and we'd compare things. But
You've
I
been
can,
busy.
with my friends, all respect to my friends at Prize Picks, and I do legitimately love Prize Picks. I had to lean on you last week a little bit, a little bit more, and damn if our audience isn't fortunate to have somebody like yourself who's has fun with this. And but just a disclaimer: Bud's not going to go with, not going to bat 1,000 every weekend.
I will
But
not hit a 25-1 shot twice in a week every
that
week.
was
That is,
quite the performance and quite the suggestions from you last week, sir. So
I appreciate that. Now, we did go 3 for 3 on our Florida State side of the prize picks from the official card tweeted out. Of course, promo code NOLCAST gets you that 100% deposit match bonus to play prize picks up to $100, of course. So Trey Benson, less than 15.5 receiving yards. That's just, the ball club. If they want to throw the ball, they usually throw it to a Philly. It's not that Trey can't catch, but he's a better runner than he is a catcher, right? Jordan Travis over 25 or 22.5 or more than 22.5 fantasy score, excuse me. 37.68. So pretty solid there. And then some guy named Keon Coleman, more than 58.5 receiving yards. All right, folks, if you did not take advantage of Keon Coleman, 58.5 receiving yards, going more than 58.5 receiving yards, I have some bad news. I'm fairly certain that Keon Coleman will never have a receiving yards more or less number that starts with a 5 or 6, or maybe not a 7 in the big games.
It's going to be a while till we see a 7.
Yeah.
The
The price of poker doesn't change, guys, on Keon Coleman on the prize picks. I hope everybody took advantage of that.
And at the same time, it's going to make me feel more comfortable about betting on Johnny some. I mean, we can talk more about it. Johnny had a couple drops. Johnny still had 100 yards and blocked his rear end off and played really well situationally. But man, Jaheim, Johnny, Trey, Darian Williamson got more snaps than I necessarily thought he would. All those guys are going to have incredible opportunities because people might put a team of 3 to follow Keon Coleman around moving forward. I mean, that guy's a problem, and he's going to open up statistical opportunities that we look forward to talking about all year, and being able to see where some of the numbers move on prize picks. And it's fun to do and fun to choose more or less on certain things, but it's kind of cool to see the lagging indicator as to how much the national audience is familiar with your team and how they adjust to what it is. And it's going to be a fun game to watch. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see any more 5s for Mr. Keon Coleman. No,
probably not. No. Yeah, that was a really fun night. Who said hope is not a plan? It's a famous quote. I'm not sure who said it, but it really, at a certain point, you kind of have to double Keon and then sort of hope that Johnny just has an off game. And it looked like he was going to have an off game to start. And then you kind of look at the stat sheet and you're like, well, damn, 7 for 102, five catches that went for first downs and 2 PI calls drawn. I mean, your top 2 guys went. I wrote this down, or I should probably. Here we go. Sorry, I got a lot of notes on college football today. Your top 2 guys, 16 catches, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 PI calls drawn. I mean, what are you going to do with that? With a quarterback who can run and, Benson, who's a threat to hit an explosive run, and obviously like multiple tight ends who are dangerous. And like, I don't think Destin Hill had a catch That'll change pretty soon, I
Yeah.
think. Oh, I did want to give a shout out to Hakeem for getting a pancake block in there and
Oh, that
giving
is a hell of a highlight. That is a
high
hell of a highlight on
high
multiple.
effort away from the ball play. Like it. That's-
Rodney Hill's mom and I watched that play 5 times this morning in the hotel lobby. And that's a great, sweet lady, and she is proud of her son and loved watching that replay many, many times over. So great for Hakeem. Great to see that. And it's just the Benson thing's interesting to look at because I'll get your opinion on this. And Benson was better when I went back and watched the game on tape than what I thought maybe originally from the stands. Although there's things that he's only going to improve upon. But he's kind of like a little bit of old school running back in that you got to kind of get him the ball. You just got to feed him carries, and the more you give him the ball, the more comfortable he gets, the more it seems he becomes more and more of an instinctive runner. So for a sport that doesn't feature, 26 carries to the tailback all that frequently, it will be fun to see how they work that. And I think you just continue to work Trey and continue to give him opportunities, and a guy that I literally think learns more about the position, with each game. And obviously that's applicable to everybody, but you're still looking at a guy who's, only carried the ball so many times in a career. And I think in time is only gonna, see more cuts and get to that point of comfort and instinctiveness with less and less carries. But he does appear to be somebody that gets better and better with each time you give the ball throughout the course of a game.
I watched the All-22 before we did this. I thought that it actually showed a little bit of like growth from Benson in that he was willing to take a profit at times and just stick his head up in there and just try to grind out the tough 2 or 3. I think, and I'm not saying he did this perfectly every time. He obviously never hit the huge run, right? He had the one chance and it kind of got tripped. And then there is a time that they run, they hit like a beautiful split zone look, and Roddick has this blocked pretty well, it looked like, and his feet get a little crossed, and LSU's DT, the Wingo kid, just does a great job, like basically saving the play, because LSU is screwed if Wingo doesn't make the play, because Maurice Smith climbed to the backer, like he and Dimitri comboed it nice, and it was just Benson was going to go for like 40, and LSU's DT just made a great look. He's going to be like probably that kid was better than I thought he was going to be. Like, I knew he was second team All SEC or whatever last year. Like, golly. Yeah, that was, and I think he missed 1 or 2 cuts, which again, got to improve on it, will improve, but he didn't do the thing where he tried to like crazy bounce it and then take a loss of like 7 or 8. And I think if you just sort of like baseball, like you're fouling off pitches, you're keeping Jordan in this passing game in the at bat, right? You're letting them live another down, because they don't fear these long down and distances all that much, it seems like. And that's really to Jordan's credit, I think, in that his pocket movement has gotten so much better. His ability to slide laterally, right, without having to fully turn his body, to really keep his eyes up to where as soon as he gets clear of anything, he knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball. I mean, how many hard throws did Jordan have? Not many. A lot of them are wide, and that's not a knock. I'm saying he created easy throws with his legs.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that Benson ran hard, like for the most part, or was willing to just stick it up. And he got 2, he got 3 at times. That's not what you want, but it's better than like not sticking patient with it. And then they changed the run game up in the second half, right? It was, you make LSU declare what they want to do. Okay. Clearly, like, they have to have a plan for what you're going to run counter. Okay. You're seeing how this is good. They're going to use Perkins. You're seeing this. You're seeing that. They're going to have Wingo play that, basically that kind of shade nose on the backside of your counter, and he's going to shoot it. And Mo Smith ain't the only center out there who really can't clip Wingo consistently on a down block. It's just it's they're committing to taking that play away from the formations you wanted to run it on, and you had some choices to make, and they did switch up personnel a little bit. We saw Keandre Jones in there. We saw Bless Harris come in. I thought I saw Washington actually in there some in the second half. Unless my eyes are playing tricks on me. Didn't he? Yeah. Darius got in there for, and it wasn't just like when the twos were in at the end. I'm pretty sure he actually came in and played. I mean, once they got like LSU out formationed in the run game, it was like, oh, this might really be a rout, because the pass game was pretty much there all night,
Mm-hmm.
and
This is very fanish, and not something that this podcast like does a ton. But what do you think if you were to say like one play, maybe the most important play of the night, or something like that, that really sticks out to you when you just think about that stretch there in the third quarter where Florida State started to make the game. Make the game theirs. For me, it's the 4th and 2 with Toafili. I mean, that's a
really good one.
Beautifully designed play call. It's Toafili being Toafili. It's Johnny Wilson just being a freaking menace downfield, blocking everybody. And then obviously not tied to this play, but Jordan scores one play after. It was just, that felt like if we go back to the conversation we're having 5-7 minutes ago about not making the most of it and not putting Florida State away when you had a chance, or not away, I'm not saying, but putting them in a place from a game perspective that they have to start acting in a different manner than they would, normally. That was like damn, we absolutely missed it. And now we're playing in a totally different game. And, again, except for a loose moment from a bunch of kids getting on the field for the first time, LSU doesn't score again, and Florida State basically does what it wants from that point on.
100%.
We kind of organically have talked about wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. You want to touch on tight ends and offensive line real quickly? That of what we haven't kind of talked about.
I will. I do want to give a shout out, obviously, to the legendary team, Chad and Shannon. Great to see them yesterday and hang with them. I see Chad in the chat tonight. Really awesome working with those dudes, and it felt like every single person I talked to at the tailgate had a loan from those dudes. So 844 FSU loan is the number to call. Obviously, the most trusted brand for us in the space. I've done it twice, and I met the guy. We met the dude who has 4 loans through them.
Yeah, and reminded me that I told somebody I'd buy him A5 Wagyu if he does 5. And well, that was a stupid comment, but I will. Let's be careful of what we say, Ingram. But no,
we got to do more prize picks, man.
I mean, he was wearing a Dalvin Cook jersey, and he's the 4 lone dog. And no, I mean, we met so many people at that tailgate that had gotten loaned through Shannon, and the tailgate was awesome because in many ways it's Shannon, it's Chad Lewis and his whole family, it's Matt Thompson, obviously, and his lovely wife Lindsay working the gate, and it was just a lot of people who have made the Nolecast possible and been incredible contributors to what this podcast has ultimately turned into. And it was just an exceptional experience. So thank you to all those guys. ConcruityHR.com is the website if you want to work with Matt and his team. Everybody knows where Madison Social and Township and everything else is in Tallahassee, but no greater, supporter of Florida State athletics and supporter of the experience of being a fan of Florida State, totally the university in itself, than Madison Social. And Shannon, Chad, it was no missing man formation this year, dog. We had the whole crew, and great to see Chad and his son and Shannon and Mia. It was just great to have the whole sponsor family there. So fantastic time out at the tailgate.
I told Chad, get a picture now because that kid's about to be bigger than you by next year, man. All right, so offensive line had a difficult task. I thought Matt Moscona, who we had on here, was really good for highlighting like what LSU's good at and what they're not maybe good at. Like, he didn't sugarcoat that these DBs might really suck.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if they're going to suck all year, but they damn sure sucked when they had to guard Keon and Johnny. But he's like, yeah, look, they definitely still have dudes on the defensive line, and FSU's offensive line found that out. There really won't be many fronts you play this year that are as good as that. And I say that without Mason Smith. I still think Florida State would have won the game had LSU played Mason Smith. after seeing what Wingo did, I am not entirely convinced that they would have blown LSU out had they had to block Mason Smith and Wingo on the inside. I know we saw that comment there in the chat. No, I still think Florida State would have won because Mason Smith doesn't play corner, right? So like that's the kind of the edge you kept exploiting. Bless Harris, though, is a guy who is still kind of raw, still developing as a player. He has a year left, right? Because he probably got the red shirt last year. Or am I wrong on that?
I believe he has a year. I will look at that and have a solid answer for everybody next time we convene. But I believe he does have 1 year.
He
do you have the roster there in front of you?
I do. Yeah, I'm looking here, but I just the COVID thing messes me up on all this. I need to color code it differently. I used to have one that I really liked. Okay, so it says he's a redshirt senior, but I don't know if it's like the injury shirt and the COVID shirt.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought he played well. He came in for Robert Scott. Not exactly sure what the deal with Scott was. I just think he has natural ability, man. You know, some guys are. I don't love the idea of like gamers first practice players because I need you to be good in practice too. But I do think the ability for him takes over, you know. And
he was pretty good in practice too. I mean, I
Yeah.
can tell you, he's you know, there are times where Bless had the ability to block Jared probably better than anybody else in the roster. That when I kept referencing Bless Harris the last month or so, like nobody's getting the best out of Jared when you do it to scale. Okay, not too many people in all college football, but there were times in practice where Bless shows that he's got some pretty special traits too, and that'll be interesting. I'm not playing dumb. I'm not sure what the situation with Robert Scott is. You look at it more, it might have been a flare up from something that he's dealt with. It might have just been that with that personnel package, they thought that Bless was the better option. I don't know, but you're deep there. I did think that that Dimitri Emmanuel played a good game when I went. I thought that watching the game, and when I went back and looked, Mo Smith played well. I mean, you just got to put it through a filter of who he was asked to block, in my opinion. I mean, it's just like you said, that dude's not too many people are gonna push that guy around. I thought Mo played pretty well. I really do.
If you're in the stands, you see Mo like bending over, like he's clearly playing through pain, having to block a guy who is, potentially a first rounder, but certainly like a top 100 type pick with that kind of quickness. Like Mo, this is not insider information. Just if you're in the stands, you see it. Like that guy is not 100%. He is gutting it out, right? I don't think anybody else can really snap and play at the level he gave you. And it's this weird thing where, like on PFF, Mo Smith was your lowest graded player on offense, but by far. And yet, agreed. If you adjust for who he had to block and the assignments that he had, I really thought that he played admirably. That was encouraging. They also ran a little more power than counter in the second half, which I do think helped him out a little bit. They ran a little more of the two back stuff. They went a little bit more of some of the same side stuff with the goal. And I'm not going to tell straight here, but basically like the goal of getting LSU to rotate differently with its safeties and nickel, right? And they were able to create different angles on that stuff. You manipulate the overhang defender. Anyway, like they have a lot because they have so much experience and they were able to put in so much stuff in spring and rep a lot of stuff in fall. There's not a lot of like, hey guys, this is new, type thing. Let's learn. There's a lot of different variations they can run on this stuff. And the best offensive teachers out there have the ability to keep it simple for the kids, but make it appear very different to the defense. I thought Georgia last year with Todd Monken did a beautiful job of it. The best offensive coaches out there, they're the guys who the defensive coaches are like, how the hell do they rep all that in practice? Kind of like, remember Boise back in the day when basically all the offensive coaches, they weren't cheating, but like they all thought that like Chris Peterson had like secret practices or something because there's no way any team can rep all of this different scheme and be clean at it. I think Florida State has the ability to throw a lot of different pitches at you, but throw them all well, or at least at least throw them all for strikes, right? And that was really really pretty impressive. Byers was a little bit less consistent for me, but I do think that the good out of Byers was good. Like when Byers got it right, he achieved movement. Like which is not surprising. He's kind of the most NFL looking bodies of this group, right? Yeah, I thought that was pretty important. That's a lot of offensive talk, about like 30 minutes of it. That was really damn good. It was cool to see the Bell stuff was a nice reminder for me and for the defense. Like, oh, by the way, there's this guy too. Okay, you're so focused on everything else. Here's Jaheim for 60, and then here's Jaheim on an end around, and like people might say, why would you show that? But I think that's another thing you got to prep for now on the goal line, right? You're not overplaying some of the stuff quite so much potentially. Like Jordan,
I mean, that's
like
not
Spidey sense.
You ran that all the time last year. You were just giving it to Mike Pittman, and it's not a surprise that Jaheim Bell could carry the ball. I mean, that's not. I don't think you're. It's not like you had something wild in your back pocket that you showed there. I think that traditional deductive reasoning could have deductive reasoning. Could have let you know that was a possibility. I'll put it that way. So
if I told you that Keandre Jones plays 35 snaps in this ball game and has the second highest pass blocking grade, because he's got a little mass to him, right? Hard to knock back.
He's a big dog. Absolutely. He's in a position of big men. Mr. Jones he big. Speaking of Mr. Jones, I saw Greg Jones this weekend. I mean, that's just. I acted like a child. I mean, I was just like, dude, it's Greg Jones. It was awesome to see so many alums. Travis Johnson, we ran into Brian McFadden after the game. Xavier Rhodes was down on the sideline having a great time.
Dockett was down there.
Great to see. Yeah, Dockett was down there putting on a coaching convention with some of the
not coaching, of course,
guys.
just explaining that back in his day, clearly he did it this way.
Yeah, but here's what I did. I just picked people up and threw them out of the way. You can do that too. But no, it's emblematic of where the program is. It's emblematic of the culture surrounding the program. It's emblematic of the job that Mike has done. And Mike's got a lot of great people on the staff, and got a lot of great people all rowing in the right direction. But Mike has built a monster, and seeing how many former players are back and engaged is just a great reminder of that.
No doubt about it. It's you got a lot of people rowing in the same direction under Mike's leadership here. Somebody asked me, like, how would you defend this offense? And it's really tough because you have so much. You have unique talents at a lot of the positions. I think you are largely good enough on the O-line as long as you don't make mental mistakes, right? And I thought that was something they did. Like, generally, when they got beat, they got physically beat. You were not allowing a whole lot of mental mistakes. You're going to make some. Everybody makes some, and it's week one. But I thought they were fairly clean overall. And that's important because, yes, you just blew LSU out. You still don't have a lot of guys that are going to play pro ball on this offensive line. So they have to do the whole 24-year-old veteran, not make mental mistakes thing, make the opponent physically earn everything they get type thing, not get confused, pass guys off, be sharp, lack of penalties, that kind of stuff. Like, how many holding calls do they have? Not many. I thought the offensive line played fairly cleanly in this one. And if they're going to go play with some of these really elite defenses, that's what they're going to have to get out of that group. Like, that's probably the max that group can give you, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Great to see so many Florida State. I mean, I'll tell you, I think I might have saw as many of those Osceola and Renegade yellow home field shirts this weekend as anything out there. That obviously has been a very successful product for them, and want to thank our friends at Home Field for giving us a chance to work with them yet again. Nolecast23 is the coupon code there to get you, I believe, an additional 15% off anything purchased. Great people, great product, something that I legitimately enjoy wearing, enjoy giving to my family. Home Field has some great stuff, and they've got some great new stuff that they just released about 10 days ago or so, including a very sharp old logo bomber jacket type thing, kind of the old early
Did you get it
90s
yet?
starter jackets. I haven't ordered it. That's my fault. It's also been 100 degrees everywhere that I've been, and I haven't had bomber jacket on the mind, but I will order it this week. Absolutely. Very, very handsome, and excited to again work with our friends at Home Field. Homefieldapparel.com, coupon code NOLCAST23, and great stuff. And do go take a look at their new product line as well for Florida State.
All right. Last couple of things on the offense. Jordan Travis was 4 of 6 on passes that went more than 15 yards in the air.
Mm-hmm.
If you can play pitch and catch 15 yards down the field, you are not going to lose a ball game.
That's part of having Keon Coleman too.
That is helpful. Yeah, he's definitely more than half of that. And the thing is, if you watched it, I know like we're not going to talk Keon Coleman for an hour, but we probably could. Early on, it seemed like they were intent on getting him the ball on screens. I mean, they threw 3 screens to Keon in the first half.
Yeah.
And I thought the blocking on those was pitiful, actually.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like now, granted, the one is a really good play by the DB. So it's those guys are on scholarship too. And yeah, they weren't great in coverage, but like that was a pretty good play to fight through that screen. And it seemed like eventually they're like, he's literally pointing at the guy. Let's just we'll throw it to him. And then I mean, it was very clear that you had the slot look against like the first touchdown he catches is against a safety. I think the guy he calls out after the snap, because you've seen the clip of him calling the dude out. Mm-hmm. That's not the guy who covers him on the next play.
Yeah,
they just let him get a vertical release into the safety, who does about as good of a job as you can do, I think, for that, for being who that kid is. Let me see. Points inside the red zone. 6 per trip. That is what you want right there. Counters to the counters. Jordan really, I do think the threat of Perkins kind of kept Jordan in the pocket for the most part. Like he didn't have the crazy scrambles. But I bet you if you give Mike Norvell the truth serum, he's fairly happy with how else you chose to deploy Perkins. Yeah. I talked to a personnel guy tonight at a different Power 5 school, but a lot of guys watched that game last night. And he's like, yeah, I think you're always pretty pleased when they take maybe the best speed rusher in the entire sport of college football and decide to make him an off-ball linebacker / spy. That's 28 coverage snaps, 7 rushes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, we talked about Mo Smith having a game that I think everybody's proud of. One of your lowest rated defenders per PFF is Deuce. And yet, again, I was talking to this personnel guy on the phone about his league, and their team is active in the portal. And so he watched Cypress intently. He's like, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah.
Neighbors is a probable first-round pick, and Neighbors caught like 7 balls for like 60 or 70 yards, and they let Deuce cover him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get away without playing like too much bracket on Neighbors, you're gonna like 8 for 100, fine,
right?
Whatever, like
right.
Cool. Like it's not 8 for 180.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought he was better than people think. Obviously, his grade's not going to be very good. Deuce Cypress is probably not a first-round pick. I think he is a pick, but Neighbors is. And I mean, there was like a 4 or 5 play drive. Remember that, like towards the end, they go at him a ton.
Yeah,
I know Daniels didn't throw great balls, but Deuce wasn't.
He played pretty well. He got lucky on the one crosser that the guy drops that he's probably leaving him in the dust if he catches that ball. Or I'm not leaving him in the dust. Deuce isn't making that tackle. Let me put it that way. But no, I thought Cypress played well, and I agree with you. It's real hard to be good in games and not good in practice, and not to just he hadn't been good at practice and been dominant. But it was good to see him have a play like that. Do you have the total snap numbers in front of you?
I do, yeah. Who do we
How
want?
many did Barker get? That was a kid that I was surprised. I mean, he got in early, relatively speaking, earlier than some of the other newcomers. And
He played 9.
9, okay, all right. So not
Um,
not a ton, but interested to see how much continued work he does. I do think that you're going to see a decent amount of rotation at the safety position, and I'll be interested to see who ends up winning the majority of those snaps as the season evolves.
you're a 31-point favorite over a Southern Miss team that was a bowl team out of the Sun Belt last year, and by all accounts is better this year than they were last year.
Hmm.
I think that says something.
Yeah.
You should be playing a lot of young guys down the stretch, I think. Really, like, getting them reps and keeping them happy, keeping your guys' legs fresh. I do hope that everybody played Prize Picks tonight, but maybe playing a little more of the less category than the more if you were playing Clemson's offense. 14 of 20 for Cade Klubnik. Pretty
Yeah,
good, except for 85 yards.
Yeah, 85 yards and a couple balls that could have been caught by guys who wear blue and white. And yeah, that's a little bit of a deceptive stat line there.
Did play a little like alt unders in this game.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
just figuring like there's some chance Clemson's D line dominates Duke, and there's some chance Clemson's offense either isn't good or isn't fully in sync in week 1. And
Yeah.
if both those things happen, then we get some like 6-1 shot type stuff. Which who knows? We got the whole second half to play here. Deloach graded really well on defense. I thought that was good. Remember that stat 4 of 6 on passes that went 15 yards in the air?
Yeah.
Do you know what Daniels was before garbage time?
I'd love to know.
0 for 3.
0 for 3. Okay. What was the PFF on Lundy and Bethune?
Lundy was.
I thought that's the best game Lundy's ever played for Florida State. I mean that guy has continued to improve, and I constantly go back to this because it's me and you drinking at a bar, but like we made a comment. That guy has physically done things with his hips and his body that you don't see a whole lot. That is a totally different player than where he was 2 years ago. Remarkable.
His blitz grade was awesome. His tackling and run defense grade was I'm not gonna get the exact numbers on the show because I don't know if I'm supposed to do that, but amongst the worst. So like the aggression, the physicality, the first goal line stop has a lot to do with him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he's fast in a straight line and aggressive and physical. So they seem to figure out ways to use guys, to look good. Bethune, kind of the starters, had one of the kind of in like the Fentrell grade, and then Deloach had a really high grade. Look, man, I don't know that I fully trust the college grades on PFF like I do the NFL.
Yeah, and I think defense is tougher to an extent.
Yeah, like they had Perkins as the worst grade on LSU's entire team today.
Yeah, I saw that.
I know they do a regrading later in the week. I'd be curious on that because, like, how are you judging that? Like, Jordan had 1 scramble.
Yeah, I'll go back and look at Tatum Bethune's tape as well. From what I saw, that looked like the guy that Florida State thought they might have before he suffered that injury at Louisville last year. I mean, that was pretty impressive, pretty instinctive. The frustrations with the officials in the first half, but when the guy like basically walked over to Tatum to tell him not to hit Daniels that hard or whatever he said, I'm like, all right, that's a linebacker, and the quarterback chose to jump up in the air. What the hell is supposed to happen? This is football, but nonetheless, I'm rambling, and impressive game, and it doesn't surprise me that Deloach had one of the higher grades.
This is one of the better blitz games that Adam Fuller's called.
Okay,
I thought, as far as not even like getting home on the sacks, but they did get home several. What do they have? 4 sacks, 5 sacks, 3 sacks? Yeah, 5 sacks, or no, 4 sacks. But I think if you take it, like, Shaim Brown had a really good blitz. Deloach had a good blitz. Lundy had a good blitz. Like, obviously your D linemen don't blitz. You had guys blitzing from different angles. and yet you did not give up the explosive, like deep shot. Now they did do some dump offs that ran out, and look, that's a good offense. Okay, I think you could tell me that LSU doesn't have a top 20 defense right now, and I'd believe you, but they definitely have like a top 10 level offense. The left side of the offensive line is very good. Like both those guys will be draft picks. The left tackle, and ask Jared Verse what he thinks about that left tackle, because that kid can play. I mean, like Verse can play too. They'll probably see each other on Sundays. Like it's not the last Sunday shall they meet. But I thought that was good. And if you were going to keep Adam Fuller around, the argument was basically the continuity, right? You have 2 September games. You need to make sure you play good team defense. You're not blowing coverages. You're not blowing assignments. And I thought it was a gamble to keep him around. Not that it wouldn't work, but I didn't think he had shown very much through 2 years. And I thought this was by far the most impressive game they've had, even though they gave up 300 in the first half.
Yeah.
Because that's a guy like Daniels will be drafted at quarterback, right? They have multiple NFL receivers out there. They block well. I know the backs are nothing special, but that's one of the better offenses you faced in your time there. And you didn't allow the explosives. You kept yourself in the fight. Well, a couple explosives, but not the stuff over the top. And you made them earn it for the most part. Like the longer plays were either short stuff that hit, or like you didn't see a whole lot of just bombing over the top deep shots that like the safeties blew, or like the corners and safeties miscommunicated on the deep stuff, which is a change from prior years. Some of the stuff felt like the Oklahoma game, because I was in the same stadium, 2 sections over for that with you. Like the short stuff that hit felt kind of Oklahoma-y, but Oklahoma hit the stuff where you were on the top. And in this game, the LSU did not. I thought it was good.
Fantastic, man. I mean, interesting to go back and continue to watch that and make as much as we can. You're always going to overanalyze the first game, I think, just because people are so anxious to go back and look at it. And when you happen to have a win over a top 5 team, probably more so. But what a climb, man. What a place where this program has gone in 3 or 4 years. It's been remarkable. And I'm not don't like to cross-pollinate too much, but if you're 47 minutes in and listen to this podcast and your Sunday morning was a little bit better, the traffic you got caught in leaving Orlando was maybe a little bit more manageable because of what you saw last night, I'd suggest you give considering joining the Battles in some real thought. I mean, it's for Florida State to be one of the better college football programs in the country, or for Florida State athletics in general to be at a high level. It doesn't have to be all about NIL. It won't ever be all about NIL at Florida State, but Florida State needs to meet the criteria for competitiveness, and the Battles End and Rising Spear and some of the other sports very much helps to do that, and would ask that you give, like I said, give real consent. If you're 48 minutes into this, you are a diehard, one of the larger fans out there. Give it. If it means that much to you, I ask that you give some real thought to join it. So, but thanks for letting me have the 80-second info commercial there.
Thanks for doing such a great job, man.
And it's an incredible opportunity. And if you're at the tailgate, hopefully you got a chance to meet some of the other guys and women on the team. We've got some great, talented young ladies working with us as well. And we've got a great team and take it real seriously. And those people deserve as much or more kudos than I do. So it's been a great time.
This Riley Leonard kid's really good, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought he was pretty good, but like
judging by the chat there. Okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, he just had like a 60-yard run on QB power. Or maybe it was counter, actually. Anyway.
Duke. I mean, Duke may be one of the.
And he gave him a look back. Apparently, he's like a really good basketball player.
Who else is a good basketball player? No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna talk about Keon Coleman every 3 minutes. I promise. But no.
But we could.
I mean, we could. Hard not to after last night. But
would you say that he and Jordan had good congruity together?
Oh my Lord, they seem to be fully locked in, absolutely, and are optimizing Florida State's
Yeah.
offense, absolutely.
What is the number to call from Gruity? And how many hours are you going
You
to
just
sleep tonight?
DM me is what you do. No,
Okay.
just reach out to me on social, or you can email the the Nolecast email account. I'm happy to put you in touch with Matt Lewis, and those are great people who've done great things for many a Seminole affiliated business. I can assure you.
Absolutely. Let me see. Punts, there weren't many. They were quality punts. Like there were no really bad punts, right? And that's kind of what you want. You want like the consistent flip the field 40 yards.
So
Kickoffs and kickoff coverage was really good.
really good, and let's like this is a thing. So I'm not dismissing it, but I'm not trying to give the. I'm going to try to walk a middle line here because I'm not trying to credit the punter for LSU dropping punts all the time. And no, that does seem to be a thing. But Australian punters in particular, I think it's known as the boomerang, and it sometimes, those dudes have a manner of kicking a ball that it comes down in a different thing. And no, I'm not just talking gibberish here. This is a real thing. And again, I am not trying to credit the punter with a turnover. But
Let's do it.
but yeah.
Wait, is this like when you flush the toilets in
And
the
it
southern
goes the other
hemisphere?
way.
It goes the other way.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know that that's a perfect analogy, but I'm not a punter. So maybe it is, bud. Maybe it's that he hits it counterclockwise or something like that. But this is a legitimate thing. And from my understanding, and I'm not a putting expert, not something that is able to be hit on every punt, but there's some type of spin that Australian punters in particular have the ability to do. And I don't know if it's, growing up playing Australian football or growing up playing rugby. That just as having a dad that played some rugby growing up, that would kind of what I would suspect has to do with it. But that is, again, I didn't pause the camera so that I could sniff some glue and start talking to you guys about punters getting fumbles. But it is a legitimate thing what I'm talking about.
You realize the kid who fumbled was not the kid that they had in there on the prior punt return.
It didn't surprise me. I mean, the one kid he
they
makes a hell of a
the guy
catch.
for trying to catch the ball. Yeah, exactly.
I've done that 3 times now. I'm going to break glass by the end of the show. But the kid who made the one catch, I'm like, well, one, that's a great catch. 2, if I was a coach, I wouldn't let you return a punt after that because there's no way you should be trying to make that catch at what year 10 or 15 or wherever that was. So
completely. I think that's really all we have for tonight. People in the chat asking, are you surprised AZ Thomas did not play well? Guys, I predicted 34 points for LSU.
Yeah.
Like come April, when they have the draft, you're going to see a lot of guys who play for LSU on that offense get called. I thought the defensive effort was very good. You just have to kind of optimize it or just kind of you need to realize what you're going up against. I think that's a pretty damn good offense.
Yeah.
AZ wasn't healthy in the spring, and now he came back and he got a lot of meaningful snaps.
Yeah. I also think just as a fan, the impulse is to like, oh, who's the guy chasing after a wide receiver who makes a tackle? Oh, it must have been his fault or whatever. That's not necessarily true. I mean, and look, those are, like you said, those are some tough draws when it comes to who you're matching up and who you're having to try to get to the ground. So I would not be too critical of AZ. AZ's been very, very impressive leading up to the game in practice, and that young man's got a super bright future from a broad perspective.
100%. Cool, man. That is pretty much all I have for tonight. I did have some other stuff planned, but I think we'll talk about that because I don't really want to do an hour-long Southern Miss preview. So we'll kind of go over how opponents looked in week 1 for our preview on Thursday.
Fantastic. All right, y'all. Just enjoy this. Like, it's crazy. We were doing instant reactions where I was so depressed I couldn't turn the camera on. Not all that long ago. All right. It's been a hell of a climb. You got one of the better programs, broadly speaking, out there. You're headed in the right direction. This should be a really fun year, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you I hope you listen to the Nolecast as much as possible as part of that enjoyment. So we thoroughly enjoyed tonight and look forward to talking to you soon. And that'll probably be a Wednesday night recording with a Thursday pub. So look forward to seeing you then. But thoroughly enjoyed seeing you and Maggie this weekend. Great to catch up, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, give Christina and Hambo my best, and I'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, I'll talk to you later.